is the story of the people helping people all throughout this land of ours, because that's what we're all about. This is the story. This is the story of the people helping people all throughout this land of ours, because that's what we're all about. This is the story.
Welcome to Powered by Volunteers. I am Chris, joined by the amazing volunteer, Jessica Drass. Jessica, how are you doing?
Doing good. Maintaining,
Awesome.
hanging out.
Maintaining. That's pretty much where we're all at right now.
Yeah.
So, Jess, how were you first introduced to Beto O'Rourke?
So it was actually during Beto's Senate run. So I'm here in New Jersey. So I'm in South Jersey, right outside of Philadelphia. So don't really have much to do with Texas. And during the Senate run, my older brother, who I'm pretty close with, sent me a text with a link to the Rolling Stone article and was like, yo, there's this dude and he's like running for Senate and he used to play in a band. And it was like, it was the picture of the cover of the Foss album with him in the dress that just, I was like, whoa, like this looks like somebody I would know. Like this looks like one of our friends. And it actually, him in that dress reminded me of the cover of the 1993 album Laid by the band James, who I love, and they were all wearing dresses. And so I felt like it was totally like that, like, you know, mid-90s, like feminist vibe where I'm like, wow, like I've never seen like one of us run for office in such a way. And so that's how I got introduced to him. And I kept being like, is this dude for real? And so like then when, before he announced his run for the presidency, I'm actually a researcher and I research punk rock and punk communities. And so I kept being like researching his stuff. And I'm like, wow, like his platform really lines up with my fucking research. Right. So I was like, it's really kind of weird. And so then when he announced, I was like, all right, whatever I got to do, I'm in. Like, cause it's like, I keep saying like, there's never been someone from the family that's run for office. So yeah, that's how I got into it.
That's definitely, I mean, I've never heard anybody put it that way. That's awesome. That's so super cool. And especially like the one of us aspect, right? He didn't feel like an outsider. Isn't just somebody running for office that just seemed to line up with our views. It felt like one of us made it, and we all got behind him, and we're like, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And getting how we're going to do it part, which is where you come in and why we're highlighting your absolute awesome efforts. What kind of volunteer work did you do?
Well, it's kind of weird because like New Jersey, like, I mean, we still haven't had our primary, right? Like it was technically supposed to be June 2nd. So like the New Jersey primary doesn't really ever matter, right? So to get people involved in a primary in Jersey was like really like crazy, right? Because it was just like people weren't paying attention. And so I reached out, you know, online to people and of course like have met this whole family of just and each person I meet I'm always just like, oh my god, like it's like a mirror. I'm like, wait, you're me. Like all of these things that like even people that I've grown up with like don't get about me, like my Beto family gets it. And so I just, you know, got involved with everything that I could, of course, doing, you know, phone banking and helping out with social media team online, going every single online training, and then did get a chance to meet Beto in New York in the summer. And so that was, we keep calling that our Betocation. So it was my
Good
birthday.
Word.
Yeah, it was
that.
like a couple days before my birthday in July, and we were going to go up to the Ozzy Fest where he was speaking at, but then there was that heat wave, so then that got canceled. But met up with friends online. We rented an Airbnb. Like my husband and he was then 6 years old at the time, CJ. My son just absolutely adored Beto. He was his hero, and he got to meet him, and they played air guitar together to Iron Maiden, and it was awesome. Like, it was just like, okay, cool. And then meanwhile, I had actually been talking online with one of his good friends from Colombia, Rachel. And she and I kind of were hashing all of these plans of like, how do we bring the punk rock thing to the forefront? And how is that who he is? And I got to meet her at the event that she put on. And so, yeah, like, I mean, it's kind of crazy to think back. But yeah, so that was how I got involved. And then
you did a completely, totally kick-ass event. You went all in on that event. So tell
Yeah.
me about Beto Fest.
Yeah, so so going back to the old like punk rock old school vibes is in my hometown we used to put on a outdoor concert every June it was. And so we had this big field, so we called it Scream in the Field. And we would, bands would try out all year. And it was actually, I was part of our like local like Alliance on Substance Abuse, right? So it was like I had to have bands like sign a waiver that they would be drug and alcohol free for 24 hours while they were playing. Like we would have, and this is in the 90s, we'd have like Refuse and Resist come out and have tables. We'd have voter registration. So that's what I did. That's what we did in the punk rock community. And so it just so happened I could rent out the like hall across the street from the field where we used to put on these concerts. And so I did Beto Fest. So like I said, people in Jersey were like, Beto who? Right? Like people were not paying attention. So I said, well, you know what? We need to have people understand who he is. So we had this whole thing. We had like a food drive. We had like videos playing of like his different speeches. It was this very much like get to know Beto. I had Beto coloring pages. I had a whole separate Beto art studio. We had a store. So I put together, bringing the punk rock vibe together. We put little buttons, if you can see, of the Black Flag bars.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Then we did these, well, this is a hoodie, but I had shirts made up of it. And then, and actually I will show on the back of the shirt, I thought this was a cool line from one of his things where he says, we have to see clearly, speak honestly, and act decisively, which happened to be the words that he used to end the campaign. Fast forward, but anyway, and the other thing that we did was contacting all of our Beto fam and everything like that. We put together a zine. So I went old school and collected just images and stories from everybody of what they were doing, and we put it together in the zine. So I worked a lot. I was part of the Envoys for Beto group, and so worked a lot. Scott and I had phone calls like every Friday night till like 3 a.m. discussing all of this, because this was the plan, was that we were going to take this Beto Fest and take it on the road and like have we were, lining up to have Beto Fest in every area, to just introduce people to Beto, to like bring like local bands out to play. And we did have a recorded message from Beto that we played at the event too. So it was a cool way that we then kind of had a whole group of people from South Jersey that were like, yeah, we want to get engaged. We want to get involved. So
And
it was awesome.
It wasn't just South Jersey, because I know people, because I lived in New Jersey, that knew about Beto Fest.
True. Yeah. No, and actually we had people
how big that was. Don't undersell yourself.
No, thank you. Yeah, when we had people driving down from New York, we had people driving in from Pennsylvania. We had a whole crew from Virginia and DC that came up. It was awesome. It was really just we were just like, this is our family. Like, it was so cool.
Oh, it was huge. And I mean, I think I have 2 of the zines myself, because they're awesome. And the work that you guys did, especially with that one event, which had to be just a monumental undertaking, you did an immense amount of good. So what are you doing now? What kind of volunteer work do you do now?
So I have basically, so I was in Iowa with a lot of the crew and got to, say goodbye to Beto. And
I was in a Burlington coat factory parking lot. I heard it on CNN in the left turn lane, turning onto Power Plant Way. That's how much I remember that. Yeah. I'm with you. We felt it together.
And a lot of people actually chronicled my journey, since it was the day after Halloween. And I'm like, I have a 7-year-old and I'm goth girl. So like, I'm not going anywhere on Halloween. Right. So I had a flight for 6 a.m. on that Friday, and all my flights kept getting canceled because there was like all these tornadoes the day before. And so I was like on social media, and people were, so I actually planes, trains, and automobiles had to like figure out a way, and everyone kept being like, where's Jess? Did Jess get here yet? This and that. And then once I got there, and like the moment I walked off the plane, I had no idea it was like kind of already over. And so I got into Des Moines an hour before he got to the park. And so I'm like, literally it just landed and I'm in the park with everybody, and we're like, oh, And so actually the other thing, I don't have it with me right now, but like those army green Beto shirts with like the black outline of his face, like that was something that Rachel and I had put together. We gave them all out to everybody in Iowa. We were actually working on pot holders with his marijuana policy on them, like literally like pot holders. Yeah.
And you just don't make those.
I know, right? Like, I mean, Chris, we had plans, man. So anyway, so I was there and got to see everybody and all of that stuff, and realized pretty quickly afterwards, like, okay, you know what? Like, I'm in this. Like, I'm going to keep going. And when I looked at all the other candidates, for me, Joe was the one whose policies lined up the most with Beto's. And I was like, I was kind of surprised by that at first, right? But then I was like, actually, no, this is true. And I have the luxury of I'm a college professor, and I work like 3 blocks away from Joe Biden's national headquarters in Philly. So I signed up and started volunteering there. And basically, like, in researching Joe, I was like, you know what? Joe is actually just as punk, sometimes maybe even more than Beto, because of just like, Joe is just unapologetically himself. And so I designed this whole, based off of the Sex Pistols, Never Mind the Bollocks, never mind the mainstream media, Biden's punk as fuck. We had a whole event that we put together in Iowa right before the caucus. We were actually featured in Vogue magazine. I mean, it's just like, oh, this is crazy. So there was a whole Vogue magazine.
The Road Warriors, the Beto Road Warriors.
Yep, the Beto Road Warriors. We were there in Vogue magazine, and we just were like, we know this is tongue in cheek, but we're doing it. So I made like a Gen X Punks for Biden Twitter handle, made another zine for the Biden flight crew. So we put together a whole group of the Biden flight crew. We went to Iowa, to Nevada, to North Carolina. I was in South Carolina. I was there for like a week. So was there to witness all of this stuff. Plus taking all of like I turned Joe Biden's national headquarters into my dorm room. I was like the Trader Joe's artist. They let me just take all of like my crazy little art and things like that and put them all up all around. So that's what I've been doing.
All right. You've stayed busy. Absolutely.
Stayed busy. Yeah.
You got anything else on your that you're doing outside of, political volunteering?
Well, I will say everything has morphed. So obviously, since everything's online now, no more traveling, which is like such a bummer. But I've hooked up with the Women for Biden grassroots crew, and I'm one of the state directors for our group. We're called Jersey Girls for Joe. And so we've been putting together, we have a website, jerseyGirls4Joe.com. We've got our Facebook page, our Instagram, Twitter, all of that. So keeping involved in that while still figuring out how the heck I'm teaching 2nd grade, right? Like with my little dude here. And thankfully my university classes are just finished now. So now I have to figure out how I'm going to teach 4 classes online in the fall, but we'll figure it out. And
yeah, I'm in that same boat, trying to figure it out now. How are we going to do it?
Make it happen.
We will as teachers, we will make that happen 100%. Well, Jess, thank you so much for coming on and letting us highlight the incredible work that you've done. And those zines are cool, man.
Thank you.
They're super cool.
Hey, it's just collecting everybody's stories together. I mean, it's not the story of me. It's truly the story of us. It's all of us.
Dude, I've been through it like several times. I love that thing. Love it, love it, love it. We need more of them. More zines, Jess, more zines.
Wait, and I have to plug my education is the next punk rock.
All right. It is. Seriously. We're teachers. We know these things.
Yeah.
So Jess, again, thank you so much. Thank you for volunteering. Thank you for being awesome. And for Powered by Volunteers, I'm Chris.